Okay, so first of all, welcome. I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. Many of you guys know I went through this process that you are about to go through in this upcoming year last year. And it was one of those things where at the end of the year, school year, I felt a bit wiped, if I'm to be honest. And there were things that I thought I wish I had known. And had I known these things going in, I think we could have managed the process more effectively, more efficiently, if you will. So one of the objectives that I would really like for us to hit on and focus on in all the ways that I know how to say it is for us to really utilize this summer. Your students, when they come into senior year, we're going to have these best laid plans, and we've got our layout, and you'll apply for your schools here, and we'll start working on scholarships there, and you've got all the pieces that are just all plugged in. And the pieces, the variables that we just sometimes forget about are that they have sometimes been with these same students since they were in kindergarten. And so they are bonding and they are wanting to spend time together. And whereas you are like, oh my goodness, this essay has got to get done, they are like, oh, but this is our last this, and this is our last that. And so I am hopeful that if we utilize this summer really effectively, one, we are going to position our students to be able to go where they want to go, to be able to fund where it is that they want to go, and we also want to reduce that angst. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we start to draw towards the end. So thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm going to be honest, I know this is a very odd sitting style. We're used to a classroom style. The reason that we're sitting this way is because tonight I don't plan to like proctor or lecture. It is really to be a dialogue. We have got some students and parents who have just gone through the process. They are going to share candidly with you. I think it's great to have students talk to students when they hear from their peers. It's different. It's different for them, and it kind of hits a little bit, and it resonates a little bit differently than us, and like, you've got to, you need to, you should. So I am very excited to hear from them. Some of you might have had a chance to see just a little bit of the excerpt that they worked on. Great feedback, and I could not have paid you guys to say the things that you said. Like, you were just so spot on. And so, one, giving them the opportunity and giving you guys the opportunity to hear from folks who have gone through the process, and then for me to share with you some of those pieces that I think can make the process go a little bit smoother as well. If you are sitting in the back, I'm going to ask you to come into the circle. I know Terry has set this example, Mrs. Hager has set this example being in the back, but if you guys will come into the circle, unless you have to leave early, I want us to be able to dialogue and just kind of converse back and forth. The last thing I do want to say is that there are no bad questions. The only bad question is the one that does not get asked. So if you have a question about something, if there is a part of this process that is just murky to you, do not hesitate to toss your hand up and we will go from there. Does that sound good? Excellent. Okay, Mrs. Hager, would you lead us in a word of prayer?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. And we thank you for the beautiful change of seasons that we are experiencing. We thank you for the lovely weather that we've had. We do ask that you will bring us rain soon, so that our landscapes will stay beautiful through the hot summer that we know that is coming. Lord, we thank you for our school here at Brentwood Christian School. We dedicate every day to you. We want to be your school and represent you in every way. Lord, we thank you for all of these families here that are here tonight, looking to find the best way to help their student move to the next level. We thank you for the senior families that are here that are going to share their experiences with us as they're fresh on their mind. We thank you for all the junior families that are here. And the juniors, as they start thinking about what they can do for this summer and then move into their senior year, probably one of the most exciting years that they will have. Lord, we thank you for the work that Ms. Booker does to help guide our students to find the very best place, the place that you have chosen for them to extend their schooling after they leave us here at Brentwood. Lastly, Lord, we ask that you bless these few remaining weeks that we have of this school year. We ask for an extra measure of patience for everyone as everyone gets tired, but also we just ask that you bless every exciting event that's going to be happening over the next few weeks. Lord, be with everyone tonight. Help all of the knowledge that is shared, all the information that is shared, to be received and everything to be used for your glory. Lord, most of all, we thank you for your Son, Jesus. He is the reason that we do everything that we do every day. We thank you for the salvation that we receive through him. It's his holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
All right, if you guys will come right on in, awesome. You guys come in and find a spot anywhere, and I promise I don't mind if you guys want to come over and sit by me. And as I mentioned a little bit,
Together so families can sit together.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Can we like move so that the empty spaces?
I will bet that folks wouldn't mind moving. And there's space over here as well, so if there's a family, like if you guys want to come over here, there are lots of things. I'm just going to drop this, and for those of you who were not here when we first got started, this is going to be very informal. There's information that I thought of last year after I went through this process that I would have loved to have known before. And the other piece to this is that our college application landscape is changing and it is evolving so much. When we first came out of the pandemic, we were looking at one situation, and it has very much moved, and it seems to be one that is fluid. And so I want to make sure that we are kind of adjusting accordingly. When we first came out of the pandemic, many schools were test optional, and that seemed to be the landscape that we would be in forever, and that is not the case anymore. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But the first piece that we're going to start on is August. In August, I typically send out a really detailed email, and in that detailed email, I kind of walk you through the fact that Common App is now open. And Common App, for those of you who do not know, that is the method that our office strongly encourages you to use to apply. You can go through, you can enter your application information, you can enter all of your activities, do your essays, and that information is stored there to where you can apply for school after school after school without re-entering that information. I am not a fan of Apply Texas. Most Texas schools are not a fan of Apply Texas because you're going to enter that information in and you will need to enter it over and over each time you apply for a school. In Common App, if you've got letters of recommendation, once you've requested those and they've been loaded, it's a really slick portal. And so once all of your information has been loaded, you are good to go and you can reuse that information however you want. So if you've got 5 letters of recommendation that have been uploaded and the school you're applying to is looking at 2, and you know you're going to be a math or science major, you can select the 2 letters of rec that you would like to upload for that particular application and then use something totally different for another. And again, you do not have to apply and refill out all of that information over and over again. There are a few schools that will have processes that just simply do not use Common App. I will tell you that UMHB, they do not use Common App, and Harding, strangely enough, they also do not use Common App. So if you're applying to either one of those 2 schools, you would need to do that portion as a direct application, but all of the rest I strongly encourage you guys to use as Common App. As we're going through, one of the other pieces that I put in that detailed letter that comes to you in August is that I'm going to let you know the process for requesting transcripts and what an official and unofficial transcript is. And so some of the pieces that sometimes gets lost is that a student will say, okay, gosh, they told me I need a transcript. And so they will email our office and they'll say, can you get me a transcript? Well, if I give that transcript directly to the student, it is now considered to be an unofficial transcript. The only way for it to be official is for it to go institution to institution. So when you complete that Common App and it asks you, did you use a platform? And you say, yes, I used Common App, we will upload your transcript into Common App for you. You will be able to see that your transcript has been uploaded. That's the other reason that I really like Common App. It lets your student be in control of their process. So if you're wondering whether or not that teacher has submitted your letter of recommendation, you can go right to your portal and see it's been submitted or it hasn't been submitted. If you are wondering if your application has been downloaded, you can see that your application has been downloaded. The same thing for your transcript. If someone says, oh gosh, your transcript is still outstanding, you can go into your portal and see, oh no, I can see that the transcript was uploaded and you guys have downloaded. Because sometimes universities are processing so many pieces of information, there's overlap. So they might have downloaded that application, but many times they have their own team that is specifically just charged with making sure that everything has been received. And so that team may not have had the chance to check it off yet. But if you're able to go to your portal, you at least do not panic and then start to wonder, has it been sent? Has it not been sent? I don't know if it's been sent. Has it been received? So again, Common App. I think it makes it easy for you to apply because you can also pay right there from the portal, and I promise I'm not getting kickbacks from Common App. But it was so much easier. And I think Common App is probably one of the other pieces that has changed the college landscape, because before you didn't have as many students applying to so many schools. If you've got to do 14 different applications, I'm probably going to only apply to the schools that I really and truly want to attend. But if I am thinking, hey, I've already got the information in there, I'm curious, I heard that they've got a pretty good merit program, or their merit offers are pretty strong, I can just go ahead and select that school, pay my fee. Sometimes you will have schools that will waive fees at certain times of the year, so just to be aware of that as well. Also in that initial email, and I'll include a link for you guys to be able to access transcript requests, I will kind of touch on FAFSA. For you guys who do not know, FAFSA is currently being handled by the Department of Education. I don't know if that's going to continue, but it is a required form. Many parents will think, I'm not going to get any money, we're not going to fill out the form. Please fill out the form, because there are going to be many merit applications that your son or daughter applies to, and they're going to want that form. You probably won't get any money. I mean, so some people may, but it's likely that you will not. But that form will be, it's required on almost every scholarship that Juliet has applied to. And most financial aid offices are going to want that FAFSA even for them to finish processing your merit aid. So make sure that you guys go ahead and complete that. The targeted date is October 1st. We've been told that October 1st will be the date. You guys may or may not be aware, in 24 it was madness because the whole system changed and it didn't open until, it's required by law to open by December 31st. It opened on December 31st, but you couldn't get into it. And so it was a rough process. This year they made some tweaks and I felt like it was much smoother, and so I am very hopeful that by the time you guys are going through the process, we will be back to that October 1st date. And I do recommend that you fill it out as close to October 1st as you can. Schools typically 9 times out of 10 process in a first received, so first in, first done. I will say especially the University of Texas, they are very candid in saying that they process their financial aid if they're going to be doing like any college work study, if they're going to be doing any grants, it is done by first in, first out. So even though it doesn't have a hard deadline, maybe until like February or March, I strongly encourage you guys to do it as quickly as you can to when that system opens. Okay, so that is the email that goes out in August. And that is generally how I communicate with you guys, is via email. But I recognize that it's a lot of information, and I am a details person to my heart and soul, and other people can see my emails and just go, oh my word, I cannot even begin to digest all the stuff that she has put in this email. And you do not have to digest it in one setting. But I am asking that you not just toss the email aside, because there is so much information in there that you will want to be able to reference over and over again. Our office also does a database. So one of the things that I saw that some of the larger public schools had is that they had these shared emails where students could come in and they could access like scholarships or programs. And so we too have that. We call it our Advancement Opportunities database. And so in that, every scholarship that crosses my desk, I put it there. The search engines, the scholarship search engines that our office recommends that you use, and I will share those with you. When we get to scholarships, I'll talk about that some too. They will be there. There will be links there. And so they're added. I will typically, Mr. Jones or myself will typically try to put in what date it's due. I will try to link it so that you don't just have a name to where you can go in and search for it. But again, if there are any summer programs that come up, they go into that database on a different tab. If there's a school that's doing a tour or a special event for the weekend, all of it goes into that tab. So you've got one central place and you don't have a zillion and one emails with everything else that you have going on. on. So I know that sometimes, I feel that sometimes maybe folks don't access that, but I beg of you, since we're having a face-to-face right now, try to keep that in your hip pocket, particularly when you get ready to start applying for scholarships. So anything that's coming across when I do, students are aware, but I don't know how many parents are. About 4 times a year, I try to do a dine-in development with our students, primarily our juniors and seniors, and it is more or less like kind of their professional development. And so whether it is public speaking, whether it is interviewing, the last one we do is Common App, and so we will do Common App before the year is over. But it's a lunch, we come in, we try to make a professional setting because that's what we're trying to create, and it is a back and forth dialogue. Sometimes it's me, like I will do the Common App presentation, and then other times we'll bring in someone like for interviewing who has expertise in that area. If there are any notes or if there are any PowerPoint presentations from that, it will also go into our opportunities database. So again, you've got one place that you can kind of go to find those forms and those pieces of information that we've been using. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the unofficial versus the official transcript. When you're applying for scholarships, most of the time they will let you send in an unofficial, but if it's a really big one, sometimes they will want an official, and just let us know. What we do over the summer is that we work as soon as you guys are done and we've got all those finals loaded, we immediately start trying to generate transcripts for you all so that when you start making requests, because we know you're going to be making requests, we can immediately push those transcripts out to you guys so that we can have fast turnaround time. And so we'll use those in the fall, and then of course they have to be redone when we get into spring. You will have some schools that will ask for a spring transcript. Maybe you're sitting right there on the bubble. Most of the times they only want a final, and so we send those out automatically after graduation. But sometimes you will have a school that does, and if so, again, you would just complete that transcript request form, and that we would then get that sent over to them, or we would upload it into your Common App so that they can download it whenever they're ready to. Are there any questions so far? Okay, all right. Okay, so another thing that we're going to talk about, and I will commonly refer to them as LORs, and they are your letters of recommendation. One of the things that we are going to do this year, well, let me back up. We do what is called a Student Success Showcase. In the past, we have done that. The past 2 years, we have done that with our seniors. I was attending a webinar with College Board, and one of the things, and it stuck in my mind, that a representative from Dartmouth said, she said, all of our students that are applying have great GPAs, and all of them have amazing test scores. She said, for us, the difference between acceptance could be a good letter of recommendation and a great letter of recommendation. And so from that, our faculty, we got together and we met and we talked about what they define now as a strong letter of recommendation. And so it is not rehashing what is already on the application, like your GPA or your activities, unless they speak to who you are. Our objective when we write your letter of recommendation is to speak to that student's character. And so the Student Success Showcase form is what we use to kind of start drawing some of that information out and to get our students to start thinking about that information. Many schools are going to ask you for a personal statement, and I feel like that Student Success Showcase is the perfect document for you to be able to develop it from. And I personally think if you invest the time when you are doing that document, it is something you will be able to use over and over again. So even when you're at college, you can just add the new stuff on, hand that over to a professor, and then ask him or her for a letter of recommendation. In the past, we have done that. The past 2 years that we've done it, we have had that process occur at the very beginning of your senior year. That is not what we are going to do this year. This year, we have already coordinated with the English department, and that is actually going to occur at the end of this year. So when you guys are done with your AP testing, that was some of the feedback from the seniors. The seniors said, you know what, man, I wish I'd had this information over the summer. If I'd had this information over the summer, I might have started my application process sooner. And so we do it for a grade, and it's a grade simply because we're wanting to make sure that it gets done. We want one from every student. And the teachers, I ask our department chairs, like, is there any information you would absolutely like for the rising seniors to know? And sometimes this is forgotten, but when students are requesting a letter of recommendation from their teacher, two things they wanted you guys to know. Please don't wait until the last minute, because it's hard. That means that they're going to have to rush, and so they're not able to do a quality job for you. I personally request, like, if you can give me 2 weeks. Once I've got a letter of recommendation for you and you're like, hey, I just needed tweaks to send on this one to this one, or I needed tweaks to send here, that is not a problem. Like Grace, I could get something from her at midnight and I'll try to grind it out that night and get it back out to her. But if it is an initial letter of recommendation, that takes time. And so if you can do 2 weeks and be planning for that, but when you ask for that letter of recommendation, what you're also going to be asked to send and to share with that teacher is a copy of your student success showcase. It is a Google form that we will send it out to you guys in, and that's how you will complete it. And when you submit that form, you will get an emailed copy of it. So you will have it forevermore. But whenever you apply, or whenever you request a letter of recommendation, please, please, please make sure that you send that to the person who's going to be completing that for you. And again, that form really kind of speaks to you and your character. It's kind of to get you to brainstorm and think about, what do I enjoy? What are my passions? And so when they are writing that letter, we've covered all the app stuff when you submitted your app, but we are going to speak to the amazing people that we have in this space, and we know that we do, and so that's what the objective is. Let's see here. Did we cover those? Yes.
As someone who writes these,
yes.
I'd say more than 2 weeks, please, especially for our teachers who are really busy.
Okay, so you heard it from her. My thought would be to you is that since we are doing our student success showcases at the end of this year, if you can start identifying and thinking about those teachers that you know you would like to have write your letters of recommendation, identify them now and reach out to them now, so that you've got your student success showcase form. You can reach out to them, not to say that they're going to be writing letters of recommendation throughout the summer, but at least they've got it on their radar, and you're already kind of like first dibs, for lack of a better word. Let's see here. We talked about these pieces. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the college application essay. This is another piece. We have the prompts already from Common App. We know what those essay prompts are going to be. Our senior English department has those prompts. They were sent over to them a couple of weeks ago. So in the past, we have done come in first start of the year, have you guys work on that essay, because I fully recognize the essay is the holdup. When you are, and I promise you guys are looking at me with happy faces, but there's some tension that starts to set in when mom is like, where are my moms on the panel? Where mom is like, you got to get it done. You've got to get this done. You've got to get this submitted. And it's the essay. And and on the students' behalf, it is because they are dealing with the urgent versus the important. Urgent is, I've got to get my AP Physics homework done. I've got to get it done. I've got a test I've got to study for. It's tomorrow. But important is we've got to put some quality time on this essay. And so we will do that in the classroom setting. And we will do that now at the end of junior year. So again, when many of your students are done with their AP testing, that will be the transition. That will be kind of how we close out the year. And we will be able to give you feedback. I have talked to Mr. Mayfield, who is our chair of the English department, and they will determine how they want to do it. But the idea has been posed to maybe do a panel, and so that multiple folks and not just English folks are looking at those essays. I will tell you this, and this is probably one of the key pieces of information. You guys are very much used to writing English papers, and that is not the college essay. The college essay is a chance to showcase your personality. A couple of places, and I'm also going to share an intro to an essay, what your objective is. This is on the college essay, and it's especially so on your scholarship essays. You want to grab that reader's attention, and you want to try to do it in the first 2 to 3 sentences. And so in a personal statement, you will not want to start off your personal statement with, my plans for the future are. You're trying to grab attention. If you think someone has been reading through thousands of applications, I need your application to stand out. And so it's not that same set format that we're used to with thesis, sentence, and then your 3 points. It is also not a rehash of your application. So it is not like kind of a low-key way to address like, and I also have a 4.0 GPA. That might naturally flow through the conversation because it might be that, hey, this is how I did it. I didn't think I could. You might have a story behind it. But I want to share with you guys for just a moment an intro to an essay because I thought it was really good. And she's also here on the panel. And I did ask her for permission to do this. But this is Grace's. I'm just going to share her intro because I thought it was really well written and it's an attention grabber. And she titled it, and you do not have to give a title to your essay, but it's called The Chicken Who Could Fly. As much as I'd like to be a falcon or an eagle, if I were a bird, I would definitely be a chicken. Not because I cluck or because I taste pretty good in a sandwich, but because for most of my life, I felt like someone who had no say in their future and was pushed around by the forces of life. Like I was grounded and I had wings, but could not fly. For as long as I can remember, I've always felt like a bystander in my own life. My family was up and moving, and I've been to more schools than I can even name. Friends become just faces, memories lose their meaning, and my ever-shifting change in the environment led me to the conclusion that in my isolation, my dreams would forever be out of my reach. You have got some insight into her. She didn't talk anything about her grades, and you have pulled, she got your attention by, what is she talking about, this chicken who cannot fly? I will read to you an excerpt of, let me find one more. This is a personal statement. And so this is the intro to Juliet's personal statement. Some people will blow off the personal statement. Do it and do one that's really good because you can reuse it over and over and over again for scholarships. If there is anything that I recommend you guys spend money on, sometimes I know we have families that will hire like a college counselor or college coach. I want to be very direct with you guys. Anything that you're hiring them to do, we will do in our offices and we do for free. I have sat with students and I have hunted for scholarships individually for them. We have combed through essays. I have torn apart essays. So we will do the things that sometimes people are paying thousands to do. The one thing that I would encourage if you're like, gosh, I'm kind of like on the fence, if you want to hire someone to look at your essay. We did, and I felt like it was the best 200, and it's not an expensive thing to do. It was the best 200 bucks that we spent because I was very much looking at it from a technical standpoint, and sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes on it. But to be able to grab from attention. So this is the intro to Juliet's personal statement. Twirls, a purple sundress, being green, and Mr. Ray Charles. They are the quintessential if you know, then you know. For those who don't, they succinctly capture my all-time favorite episode of The Cosby Show and the emancipating evolution of me. 7-year-old me eyed Rudy as a brave maverick, unwilling to have her fashion controlled by the less informed. Seriously, why can't Rudy just throw on a sweater and call it a day? Well, 10 years later, Ray Charles's declaration of the greatness of being green speaks to me on an almost spiritual level, and I am even more resolved to never let my value be determined by the less informed. And then she goes into, I am thrilled to have launched my college journey at Hampton University. So you want to do something that kind of out of the ordinary, but speaks to you, to be able to grab. The site that I recommend anyone go to is the Crimson Review. Howard, I'm jumping back and forth. Harvard every year publishes the 10 essays that were accepted, that gained admittance. And they not only publish those essays, 10 of them every year, so you've got years of history to be able to kind of go through and get some different ideas, but they also put the reviewer's notes in. And so the reviewer will communicate to you why they thought that was a really strong essay. And so I think that that is a great way to think outside the box, because sometimes you just don't know what you're looking for. And so you're just used to doing what you do. And so I strongly, strongly recommend you to go to that site. And I include that link in the August email. So go to it, use it. Let's see here. So in that essay, again, I would encourage you, there's some things that I would definitely say is don'ts, and I know these guys will be able to speak to them as well. do not speak on controversial subjects. Even if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to be able to grab attention, I would stay away from politics. I would stay away from anything that could be polarizing. I would speak to personal me, like what things am I interested in? What things do I value? What has meaning to me? If there is something that you are passionate about, speak to it. This is a time to kind of share. And if there is a why to even why you chose that school or why you chose your major, speak to it again in that sense. If you're going to share particularly an event that has kind of like changed you, especially if it is a tragic event, it might be something that affected your family. If it's something that affected the family, be sure that in the course of writing that essay that you tie it back to you. So if the issue is that you have had a family member that experienced something that was very difficult and painful, you want to speak to that, but what's most important is they want to know about you. So you definitely want to speak to how that impacted you, and especially if it changed you in some way. If you learned something from it, if you gained something from it, that's what you want to be able to communicate in that essay. And one of the other things that inevitably comes up is like this process, like how do you partner with your student? First of all, are there any questions? I've been talking so much. If you have questions, throw your hands up, because again, this is informal and we're asking back and forth if you have questions. When we're talking about this process, it's different. Every home, yes?
So just going back to the letters of recommendation, is
Yes.
it just an assumption that they should have those available? Like, does every application require a letter of recommendation?
Does every college require a letter of recommendation? Every college does not, but I would say about 8 out of 10 do. And so some require more than others, and it really does depend typically on how competitive the school is. I believe Texas requires 2. Is it 2 or 3? Sometimes they'll do it as like a minimum. It's like they'll say a minimum of 2 letters of recommendation. If they ever ask you for a minimum, we always want to do more than the minimum. So if a minimum of 1, but they will allow you to submit up to 3, go ahead and submit 3 if you've got them available. But most will require.
So it's just nice to have it loaded and ready to go.
Yes, absolutely. So I can tell you, almost every student is going to need a letter of recommendation. And even if they had a school that they are saying, they probably don't, you want to go ahead and send one. Because even if it's not required for your admissions package, when you start getting considered for merit, we want that package like tied up with a bow. So any bell, any whistle that we can add, we want it added. Okay, awesome, great question. So when talking about this process and how we manage it, student-led versus parent-led, I will tell you my thoughts, and every family is going to have to navigate this the best way. When it comes to the college application, I think that should be student-led. That is my thought. It should be student-led with you helping guide that process, you helping to shepherd that process. And so that might look like you supporting them in identifying when the dates are. And so we might have a big house calendar that we're working from to be able to maintain those dates. It might be you proofing something for them. So when they get everything loaded in the Common App, it's always good to have second eyes on something, and it's always good not to work on something in just one setting, for you to come in and do a second look. It is good for you to even proof, and proof, like not to like tear apart, because I've done both, for you to proof their essays. If you've got really strong feelings and you've got a real concern, let me say it that way, communicate that to them for them to be able to go through and maybe even getting a second opinion from someone else. Now, on the flip side of that, when it comes to the financial aid piece, we are by all means partners in this process, because at the end of the day, we're talking a very expensive investment, and we need to make sure that we navigate it very, very effectively. And so for us in our home, that looks like I find the scholarships. I find them, I drop them into a spreadsheet, kind of like what I do with you guys here at school, and they're in date order, and I will highlight the ones that I think, hey, you've got a really good shot at this. The ones that if push comes to shove and time doesn't permit, like, okay, we can forego this one. But there are some that I'm like, this is the one, like you absolutely have to do. And so I will put the link in there, and we will talk about them, like when we touch base. And that's another thing, the application for scholarships, it never ends. So it will not be until you've got your full ride. And once, even when they graduate, you will continue. There will be scholarships that you are only eligible for as a rising sophomore or only as an upperclassman. And so it will not be an ending process. We'll talk a little bit more about scholarships later. But what I want to kind of emphasize is that there is so much that is going on with you as a student. And we as parents recognize that. And so I think it is important for us to help them so that they are not just feeling lost. And they're like, I have no idea where to go to look for scholarships. Many students will be more than willing to apply for them. Some will be more than willing to apply for them, but they're a little bit like baffled, like I don't even know where to begin. I don't know where to start. And so if you guys can sit down with them, and if you don't know where to start, if you are free to sit down with me and we can set aside an hour and we can just start digging based on where they're applying. The goal would definitely be to start local and then to go regional and state, and then we look at nationals. And I think we're probably naturally already about to flow into, Yes. Okay, the last piece that I'm going to talk about before we get ready to have our panel is test optional. I kind of hinted at that a little while ago. So when we first came out of the pandemic, almost everyone, I would say probably pretty close to everyone, was test optional, and they were pretty emphatic that that was the way they were going to stay. They communicated that it was going to be a holistic approach. This let us be able to see the whole student, et cetera, et cetera. So after a couple of admission cycles, that has very much changed. Part of the reason for that is that coming out of the pandemic, there were some deficiencies. And so what happened was colleges got students on campus, realized they had those deficiencies, but they did not have any idea with regards to being able to have resources on hand to be able to help with those things. And so, and then as they kind of started to lay the data out, they felt like, if we look at it, students who provided with us with a score tend to do better in college. And so you have many schools that are still test optional. And so I want to make sure that you guys understand this piece. Your school may be test optional that you are applying to, but I cannot say to you emphatically enough, you want to have the test score. You want to have the test score. You may choose not to submit. You may say, hey, I'm applying to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's median score is like a 1530. Okay, so you're applying and you know you've got a 1400. So you probably don't want to apply using your test score, but you have got to have that test score on hand, because when if you don't have a test score, they're going to require additional testing to make sure that you are indeed college ready, and you're not going to be eligible for merit in most cases without a test score. Or if you receive merit, it is going to be like their lowest tier of merit. Almost everyone is going to want a test score for merit. So even if you are coming in and that school is test optional, if you are looking for merit, the stronger that test score is, the better. Okay? Any questions about test scores? My suggestion, because we have got summer and we might have maybe one more cycle before you guys actually head into the fall. If you have not already, and Mr. Jones has probably shared this with you, I highly encourage you to take an SAT and an ACT and to determine which one just right off the cuff you like better, which one you feel most comfortable with. The ACT has changed its format. You guys are probably aware. It has also gone digital, and they are now doing science as an option. Make sure that you check the school that you are applying to, because many schools, although the ACT science portion is optional, schools have already started sending communications saying it might be optional for them, but it's not optional for me. They want that science section. Sometimes I think students stay away from the ACT because they're worried about the science section. I did not take an ACT when I was way back in the day, when I was preparing for school. I only took an SAT. I will tell you that Juliet shared with me that she thought the science was not like hardcore science. Like it wasn't like you needed to know formulas and things like that. She felt like it was information that you could read and it had a logical flow to it. So I think sometimes people stay away for fear of that science section and not being able to do well. But I say take them. 2 times a year, the ACT offers, and I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but that means you can buy the test. You can buy your students' test booklets, you can get their test answers, and you can get the correct answers. that is invaluable. It might be an additional $45, and it lets you really be able to identify and point out where they had gaps. Or is it just a matter of, oh my goodness, I don't think he's reading the questions correctly. He might be moving through it too quickly. Or is there really an area where, okay, we've got a gap and we've got to work on closing that gap. But I think that is a great tool. So if you're doing an ACT, I recommend trying to sign up for one of those 2 dates. Are there any questions before we get to our panel? Awesome. Okay, well, first of all, thank you guys. I'm going to get a mic for you all to pass back and forth. Our format, in case, because I know you guys were very, very busy, and I know this past week it was junior, senior as well, in case you did not get a chance to see my email, what we will do is I'm going to ask the question. If you want to answer that question, if you feel like, oh yeah, that's a question I would like to be able to handle, raise your hand, I'll get a microphone to you and you'll be able to answer. You guys as the audience, if you feel like you've got another question that you would like to ask and follow up to that, please feel free to do that as well. I'm trying to make sure I stay on the microphone so that when we record, for those who are not able to be here tonight, that they are still able to hear me. Sorry about that. Okay, and then the other thing that I ask is, just for time's sake, if you have an answer that is exactly the same as like Griffin's answer, you can just like ditto and say, yeah, I feel the same way. You don't have to like say it again. But if you've got a different thought or concept, by all means share. Okay. I appreciate you guys, I really do too. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to give this to you, and then we can pass it down as needed, okay? All right. I'm feeling very Oprah-ish. Okay, so first question, and this question is being posed to both parents and to students. As you are wrapping up senior year, what took you by surprise? So you might say, some of you guys might say, oh, everything did. But if you were saying, like you're walking through and you navigated this process and you were like, okay, I did not expect that, what would that thing be?
Wait, is this about like college application process or just about senior year in general?
In general, whatever the case might be.
So I remember walking into the first day of fourth quarter, and Miss Mallett was like, guys, things are gonna start winding down. Your teachers should know you're getting to the end. Senioritis is coming, so they're gonna start winding everything down. And then everything got 100 times harder, and she basically lied. And I said, just kidding. Her class got a little easier, not gonna lie. I love Miss Mallett. But every other class I was in got exponentially harder. So senioritis is gonna hit really bad, but make sure that you know how to like do school by then, because it really was very stressful, especially if you're in sports like spring sports like track and baseball. I feel like I've missed more days this quarter than I've been here with sports and with like I went to college visits, stuff like that. So like make sure like you're really work on procrastinating, like not procrastinating now, because it gets really bad. So make sure you're prepared for that, especially if you're taking a lot of AP classes. They start assigning like AP tests that take like an hour, and it's like, I don't want to do that, but it'll probably help. But.
It will help, it will. Anyone else want to take the question? Okay, yes, Bolu.
Yeah, I think what really surprised me was like during fall, when I applied early decision to a lot of my schools, like a lot of difficult schools that I was applying to. Just like handling school and applications and essays and scholarships, that is extremely like difficult for anybody to do. And with having sports and everything, you have to really prioritize what you want to focus on. And for me, that was my application, and being at home throughout the weekend instead of hanging out with my friends, I was writing essays and just spending time with myself and focusing on what I needed to get done. So just get ready for fall, when you have to focus on school and everything, and have a clear schedule and plan for how you want to execute what you want to do.
Bolu, can I ask you a follow-up question? Do you feel like if you started on these things in the summer, things might have been smoother?
Yes, if I listen to my mom in the summer.
Thank you, Bolu. And I probably should have had these guys introduce themselves. Would you pass the mic down and introduce yourselves? And then if one parent would like to answer that question as well, that would be awesome. Like what for you as a parent was like, oh my word, I wasn't expecting that. But if you'll pass the mic down to intro, and then a parent can hold on to it.
My name is Bolu.
And tell them what school you're going to. Sorry.
I'm going to Purdue University.
I'm Griffin. I'm going to Harding.
I'm Grace. I'm going to UT.
I'm Thelma. I'm Grace's mom.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I have 4 kids that have graduated from Brentwood.
Hi, I'm Katie Smith. I'm Griffin's mom. I have a couple others that come along.
I'm Isabella, and I'm going to Harding.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And is there a parent that would like to take that question as well? Like, what was that thing that just kind of blew you back that you just were not anticipating?
I don't know. I think just, and this is just in general, how fast things go, and it sneaks up on you, and you look and you say, okay, I've got, a couple months for them to get this process part done, and then before you know it, it's there. And that's with all the application processes, but as a parent too, just, you're used to them being there all the time, and then they're busy and they're gone and all that stuff, and so the time goes fast. So just, take advantage of the time that you have and cherish all the moments. The last senior stuff has been.
I'd like to add one thing. So I took I've been trying to take an ACC class because I got all my math done for that Brentwood early. So I was going to take it over the summer, and then that didn't happen, and then I was going to take it over the fall, and then that didn't happen because I kept procrastinating things. So I'm actually taking it my spring semester, and it's a really shortened down course, so I'm like dying in it right now. So don't wait to the last minute to take spring courses. I would take them in your fall, or if you can, take them in your summer this summer. That's the best thing to do. But summer or fall, don't take it spring when your senioritis is hitting back. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. And I appreciate how candid you guys are being also, by the way. Next question. What were your thoughts about the FAFSA financial aid process? Do you have any thoughts regarding that? Do you have any tips that you would like to share with parents? What were your thoughts?
So for me, I know it's like junior year and all, but if you have any younger kids, I would recommend starting a 529 for them. My parents started a 529 for me when I was like a baby, and they saved money for me like the whole time, and it grows tax like free. So that's really, really beneficial for that, and just like adding money to that. Yeah.
I'm going to totally disappoint Deshawn. We did not do the FAFSA. I know. We talked to 2 counselors. We had some financial issues, and the counselor said, it's not worth your time. You are really going to be spinning in the wind trying to get what you need to get done. So, sorry.
It's okay. I will unclutch my pearls. Oh, okay, we got one on the end. Thank you. You guys are answering. I appreciate the candor which you're speaking to. I really do.
I'm an international student, so I couldn't really fill out the FAFSA. But if you're trying to apply to private colleges, like Ivy League level and like, those type of schools, then you should probably try filling out the CSS profile as well, because I feel like that will give schools a good look on your financial standing, and like private schools are also like easier with giving scholarships and aid. Like if you get into the school and you can't pay, they'll help you out easily. So it's not like public schools where if you don't have the money, then you got to figure it out by yourself. So.
You are jumping ahead on my agenda. You are. No, I'm totally teasing you. But yes, he is 100% right, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so the next question, regarding scholarships, who has been actively applying for scholarships on this panel? Okay, and so can you share a little bit about what your experience has been, and be honest, like for them to kind of like know what to expect?
Yeah, so I've been actively applying for scholarships now. I think I applied for like 3 a week, and I'd say I started pretty late because I was waiting on some scholarships from my college, only for me to find out that they don't really like giving freshman scholarships, so I had to do a lot of hunting myself. And I would say like it's turned out better than I thought it would. Like there's a lot of them that I applied for I really thought I had no chance of getting, and I still like heard back from them, and I ended up like winning a couple of them. So I was like, just give it your best shot, and also like just apply anyway, but try to apply early and on time.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing I struggle with is procrastination. So like I apply for a lot of, like Ms. Booker knows, I send like a lot of like recommendation stuff like 2 hours before the scholarship is due. So like I try to.
But I love her. I love her, so I do what I can.
So like I try to work on my timing with that, but it's like it's better to just try anyway, and like you'll see what you can get, and also like try to manage like your scholarship timing and everything, and like have lists on like what scholarships you want to apply to and like when they're due and everything, and also like just try scholarships anyway. But sometimes if the scholarship money doesn't seem like a lot, I would say like my mom always says, you don't have to like apply for that scholarship if it doesn't seem like it's worth your time. Like if they want you to write like a 1,000 word essay and it's only like $500, I wouldn't say it was worth it. Like just focus your time and resources on scholarships that you know are gonna like be good for you in the long run or like significant.
All right, awesome. Okay, so next question. For parents who have also had to navigate athletics recruiting, are there any pieces of information that you can share with our parents and students as well? So not only were you doing your regular application process, but you're doing recruiting as well. And I think it's probably gonna float down to that side. There she is. Awesome, thank you.
So Victor's gonna go to school at Angelo State and play football. Couple of big things. There are recruiting services out there, like Deshandra said, don't bother. Get your kid into all the camps that you can. There are tons and tons of camps around here. There are tons and tons of camps within 3 hours. Go to Dallas, go to Houston, whatever. Make them walk up to that coach and say, hi, I'm whoever, right? Make sure that they make that contact, get a picture, get it on Twitter. I don't know why Twitter has been chosen the football way to go, but it is. Get it on Twitter, make sure the whole world knows what you did that weekend. Also make sure that anything your kid's doing, I can tell you Victor hated this, but hey, you helped at the soup kitchen. Guess what, you're gonna put on Twitter. He hated that, but that wound up helping because that shows part of your personality and who you're doing and what you're doing. The other thing I would say is to the point that Deshandra was making about the finances. We went to a couple of schools, very, very reputable schools, who I will call it, did some interest, my husband calls it Pakuki math, must be a Texas word, never heard of it, but we're gonna call you an in-state and that gets you a $32,000 right off the top. No, it doesn't. I mean, that's not the scholarship portion of it. That's you guys checking a box, right? And so yeah, it reduced my amount, but it's not really, it doesn't really feel good in the heart because it's not what you earned, it was just you guys checking a box. The other thing that I will say that I actually saw happen, Victor's SATs were okay. They weren't outstanding. And I got a call from one of the academic advisors who said, I see you submitted his grades. Can you go back, or his SAT, can you go back in and take that off? Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, it was, you know, getting this athlete on board by doing something to help him. And I guess I just didn't realize that would happen that way. But without that SAT that wasn't hitting their number, they were able to then offer him some stuff. So it was a little interesting. So yeah, the whole experience was interesting.
It sounds like it. Thank you so much for sharing, because for many of us, like, that is not a side that we know. And if we're not, like, I'm looking at, like, I know that we've got students who play in here and who could probably get recruited. And so pieces just to be aware of. And so here is a question I also have.
I was going to say something real quick. Just speaking from a coach's perspective who has filled out stuff for people before quite often. A lot of the students that we have, a lot of the people that might be interested in sports are kind of not getting recruited by tons of people or going to Division I, but maybe looking at, do I want to play, do I want to just go anywhere, because I get tons of random school emails from coaches, you know, just saying, hey, do you have any kids? Or a cross-country team, we're trying to start a bit, or they might have a name that they've pulled off the internet, you know, from the year, you know, we're interested in these people. So it's super helpful if your child, if your student, if any of you guys are interested in, hey, I really would love to play college soccer, or I would love to run somewhere if that was an opportunity. If you let your coach know that in advance and kind of what you're looking for, because I don't pass a lot of those along because I know you know, if there's some coaching, I know they don't want to go to some small school they've never heard of in Iowa because they're not necessarily interested in doing that. But if there was an opportunity maybe in Texas at a school, or maybe somewhere they were already going already that happens to be a Division I or Division II or Division III school that may offer those opportunities, you know. Harding is one that has some opportunities after you've already decided to go there. There may be some opportunities for certain sports. You know, some of them are probably not. They're recruiting higher level, but you know, that's just something that I would say, let your coach know that that's what you're interested in. Hey, I really want to play somewhere, so anything you get, you know, send my way. Recommend, or just like, you know, I would only go if I, you know, because as a parent, when you're guiding those kids, you have to decide, do you want to go anywhere to play that sport, or do you want to go to school first and then see if that's an opportunity for you to play at one of these certain schools? And so that's a totally different conversation to have, but the better they can kind of get that feel, so you're not just wasting time, but you're also getting those opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. One of the things that Mrs. Conchava mentioned, and I want to swing back to, is she talked about social media, and she talked about how Twitter was kind of the access point. I encourage you guys, especially if you know that you're applying for scholarships, if you know your student is applying for scholarships, just because of who you are, please make sure that you have your social media scrubbed. And I'm talking even from the standpoint of, like, if you're asking a school to perhaps invest, you know, $100K, $200K in you, you want to make sure that you're portraying the image that you would want to, like, walk in and do an interview with. And so sometimes we're just having a lot of fun on social media. I would encourage you, this is me, now this is Mom talking quite honestly, I would clean it. I would get it scrubbed, I would get it cleaned. And the other piece to that is maybe even consider, like, having it be private, so that you can kind of control who is seeing what, who is posting what, you know, on your pages. But that is just my thought. But just keep that in mind. If you're asking someone to invest sometimes $250,000, depending on what that tuition looks like, you need that social media to be clean. You don't need any little thing to be the portion that kind of gets your name marked off the list. Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys. So here's my next question. For those who were targeting a significant standardized test increase, so basically you knew that where I'm wanting to apply, I need to raise my score by like 100 or more points. Can you share some tips on how you did that? What your strategies were for those of you who did? If you are looking at your standardized tests, if you were trying to shoot for, or you needed to target a point increase, so if you're talking SAT, like a 100 or more point increase, or an ACT of 3 points or more, can you share with this group like how you were able to do that? Like, what was your strategy for improving that test score?
Yeah, so for UT, I was trying to hit like their 50 percentile score, sort of.
Which is smart.
So that was like a 1350. And from where I started, I was like an 1190, and that was like the first time I had taken my SAT. And I already knew I wasn't really a good standardized test taker, so that was like something that kind of stressed me out, because it was like, when I got there, I felt like I knew some stuff, but like, I don't know, people were like squeaking their shoes and everything, or like there was just a loud ventilation thing going on, and I just like could not concentrate at all. Like I would just randomly click things on the English section. I feel like the math section I knew a little bit more, but like for English, I couldn't read the entire thing. So it was like really hard for me to like focus on that sort of. So I feel like one thing I kind of used was like I read a lot of passages on Khan Academy, because they have like a free SAT program. Yeah, so like I really focused on them for my English, and I just kept reading things like every single day. I just like going through their passages and like trying multiple choice, and I also like went over my grammar rules, because like those are really easy points for you to get if you just know the rules. And I was able to like bring my like 1190 up to like a 1350 exactly by like I think it was August. So like that was the perfect score I needed to like be like in the mid percentile of UT students. So like I just took what I got and like called it a day.
So Khan Academy, and most of you guys are probably already aware of this, you can link your SAT results into Khan Academy. It has a different name now, doesn't it? But you can link it, and it will then generate questions based on what your test results were. What were you going to share publicly?
Yeah,
really strong.
What I used, because my first SAT was 1320, and like my my parents are African, you know, so they heard stories about some kid getting a 1580 and everything. So they weren't too, you know.
Was it
So,
unacceptable?
yeah, it was unacceptable. So the app that you take the SAT on is called Blue Book. And if you have it on your computer, they have like 2 or 3 practice tests that you could take. And like if you simulate the real testing conditions, it'd be like an actual test. And if you take like a couple times, they'll also give you like your actual score on College Board on the website, so you can see if you got a 710 on math or something. And yeah, I think that helped me a lot, and I was able to get a 1440, which, you know, it's a little bit better than unacceptable, but still.
Yeah, I would recommend taking both. I took the SAT and the ACT. I think I got like the same comparable score. I took the SAT. I didn't.
Was there one you liked better though? Just like the feel
Well, yeah,
of it?
I like the SAT better. I got a 1400 on it when I took it, and then I took it again. I would really recommend like looking at the breakdowns of all the stuff that
The types.
because I've never really been good at like studying and like prepping and like I have like hours set aside to take practice tests and stuff like that. I just don't really do that, which is probably a fault like on me. But I really went through like I did really bad on like not really bad, but the worst I was bad at was. I do not sound like I did very good. the thing I was worst at was like the grammar section where it was like
Your weakest area.
weakest area.
Yeah.
I was good at the reading, like reading comprehension and seeing what the author means and all that stuff. But like when it was like where do you put the colon? I don't know. And so I took it again, but I really focused on. I didn't do any math. I didn't do any reading prep, which is probably not smart. But I was like. I'm not going to study for that long anyway because I don't think I can make myself do that. So with the time that I've given myself to study, I need to hammer semicolons.
That's actually a suggested strategy, is
Yeah.
if you know you've got a gap, just focus on the gap.
And so I took it again, the SAT again, and I actually did worse. I got like a 1350 because they switched to like the virtual one, and the math
yes,
section
I
was
did.
like infinitely harder. But I improved my English score by like 90 points.
And you
And
did
so I
super score,
had
did
a
you super score?
1450 super score.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is if you did it a little bit better than Lois. But yeah, and take the ACT. I didn't like it as much. It was like more fast paced and a little bit harder. But I thought the questions were shorter. So maybe if you like that, and the science section was kind of, it wasn't like a lot of like you have to know formulas and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like here's a graph of plant life. Like what does it say? You know, it was.
It's
It
just,
was.
you can
it was
read the
not that
graph,
bad.
you've got it, yes.
But yeah, I didn't like that one as much. But I would recommend taking both so you feel like which one you're better at.
I appreciate it. I think Isabel, okay, perfect.
So the other really cool thing about Blue Book, once you take the tests and you can go on the site and see what you got wrong, then they'll give you additional practice questions on Blue Book on the website. And so it'll give you like 100. And so you could just take like 100 of those questions and it'll give you those specific questions that you got wrong. Like not wrong, but like those types of questions. And then I took a class that like we had to pay for, and it didn't really boost my score, but they're like, if it doesn't boost your score, then you'll get your money back. So I got my money back. But I'm just like not a very good test taker, so, but it was very helpful. I learned there are so many like math tricks where you don't actually have to do math on the test, you just have to know the tricks. And so you don't even have to know math. You can just do the tricks and it'll give you a really high score. So, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And I think, okay, I've got one last question, and you guys can take this however you like. This is, if you had the entire process to do over again, what would you emphatically do differently? And if you guys want to just go down the row, just because I feel like everybody's got responses. Everyone's got their thing, they're like, oh man.
Okay, so for me, I think I would have applied to more scholarships. I would have started taking the SAT sooner because I was taking it in December to try to boost my score for scholarships and stuff. And then I also would have not applied to only one school. I only applied to one school because I like felt God calling me to go there, which I do still feel like I would have ended up there anyway. But I really would have think it would have been better for me to at least see other prices and stuff to see what would have been the most cost effective for me. But anyway, those were like the 3 things that would apply to maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 schools. But yeah, those are my 3 things.
Awesome. We're going to talk about that too. I promise we only have 2 more points after these guys are done. Okay.
That's tough, but I think just, I don't know, being able to get a clear picture early on, like starting early, but not just starting just to do the paperwork parts of it, but sitting down with your student, with your child, and kind of just seeing what they are wanting to get out of this, where they're wanting to go, because it can be so overwhelming to think you've got to apply to 10 different schools, and you got to have your reach schools, you got to have this and that, and then everyone requires an application, and everyone requires this, and then the scholarships for this and that. And so when it kind of comes down to it, what are your goals that you're trying to get? Are they trying to get into an Ivy League school, or do they have a certain set of schools that they're trying to get, and what do those schools, what's the difference maker on that? We applied to 6 schools, which I think turned out to be good. Turns out the one school that the school that Griffin's going to, Harding, does negotiate with some scholarship things. And so had I to do it over again, I might have applied to had him apply to another in-state school that would give him a comparable tuition discount. Because, for example, we applied to several out-of-state schools, which he got significant scholarships for, but it's out-of-state tuition. So off of that, we applied to several private schools, which he got significant scholarships for, but again, they're very expensive. So significant is relative, right? And then we applied to A&M as the big public school, which but they don't give any money. That's just pretty much a fact out there. They don't give any money.
Yeah.
Had we applied to maybe another school that maybe, and it's hard to say because, you kind of decide, you have to draw a line somewhere, but had we applied to maybe another public school in Texas that has a reasonable tuition, reasonable is relative again, but has a reasonable tuition and gives scholarships, that was kind of a negotiating point when we came down to it, was how much is he getting other places, and we want to be the most affordable. Well, maybe we could have got if we could have found a place that was a little bit more affordable, I think, in the long run. But that's just our situation. That's not the situation for other school. Year 2, Harding, but at other schools you're not. So you have to decide, what school, and they don't know everything right off the bat. But the more you can figure out, kind of ahead of time, what you want to do, and then focus your attention on that. The scholarships that we applied to a couple of scholarships in the field of study he's going to go into, and got pretty significantly far in the process, so
Absolutely.
So yeah, that wasn't, that was a good opportunity, but so you're not just, because it does get overwhelming, and then sometimes they're like, I don't have time for this.
Yes.
And so if you're just pushing as a parent for them to do this, and there's no real benefit for them at the end, and they don't see the benefit of applying for another school that you're telling them to, or applying for another scholarship that they don't think they're going to get, that's the hard part, is to try to narrow it down.
Or some friction.
Yes,
right?
yes. So
Absolutely.
the more that you can kind of balance that and still do as much of the process as you can, but narrowing it down, that would be my.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so for time's sake, if you guys will hit like super, like
Sorry.
just, no apologies. Hit a quick bullet, because I know that there's several of you guys, and no matter what, like they're going to get out of here at 7 o'clock. And so I've got just two more points to hit. So if you'll just this and this, or this and this.
So I would say the first thing is make sure your student knows what they want to do. Yes, they might change their mind, that's fine. But if you're wandering around trying to find a college without knowing what degree you want, you're wasting your time. So that'd be the number one. The number two, and I see it happening, and it happens in my family, I don't see any kids taking notes. Start them now. Get them to take notes, get them to take responsibility, because that's the way you're going to get them to keep going in the process.
Very good, excellent. Yeah.
First and foremost, this is my first time talking this evening, but I just want to start by saying thank you to Ms. Booker and her team. I want to tell you all that this school is an awesome school. Like, we moved from Canada and everybody was like, your daughter's in grade 11, how are you going to cope? It was tough, but we were in the right group, and all the information they're giving to you, please take them serious. Like, my daughter just won the biggest healthcare scholarship in the state of Texas for up to 8 years in medical school, just from the information that we got from the school, from Ms. Booker. So first, I want to say thank you, and second, I want to say please pray for them. Like we love them, but
Absolutely.
God loves them most, and He
Amen.
knows the best for them. We're just carekeepers. So pray for them that God keep them through this process and let them get to know you more as they walk through this process. Then the third thing I wanted to say was recommendation letters. So I would think that you need at least 4. And not just for the schools, but you also need them for the scholarships.
Absolutely.
Because almost every scholarship she's applying for, they're asking for recommendation letters. So I would say that you need at least 4, maybe 2 from the teachers here, and then 2 from outside. Like UT told us, we don't want your teachers. Was it UT or A&M? One of them said we want people outside.
It was UT, and UT didn't want teachers because what was happening, I went to a luncheon with them, what was happening is that counselors in Texas were being inundated. So in many public schools, the individual teachers will not write a letter of recommendation. They just have so much going on, and so all of the letters of recommendation were coming to the counselors. And so the counselors were just like, they were sending out the same letter. And so UT was getting the same letter with just a different name on it for student after student, so they were meaningless. And so they recommended, because they were seeing that so frequently, to stop asking teachers for letters of recommendation. We do not do that here. So if you are applying to, and we are very purposed in our letters of recommendation. So if you are applying to University of Texas, that is a mute point for you. Go ahead and get your letters from internal, but that was their reasoning behind it. It was literally same letter, different student name.
Okay, thank you. So the other thing I was going to talk about was internships and volunteering. So her dad is a professor and he's in the academia, and he's like, we need to make sure that she has these volunteering opportunities. And the school gave us a lot of information. They always say, okay, try this, try that. But I didn't understand how serious it was until I started visiting E&M and UT multiple times, just going to talk to the counselors, any program they want. If your kids want to go to a particular school, parents sacrifice the time and just go there. Any program they have, just go there and talk to people. Like, I mean, the people going into school now are going to be having a family day. You know, most of the universities will be having family day in September or October. Go there. Your child is not there, but just go there and talk to them and ask questions like, what do you guys look out for? My kid is in grade 12, so what do you look out for? They will tell you. But from talking to many of them, I found out that they are interested in what makes your child special. Like, all kids have 4 points. A lot of kids have 4.3, 3.8. What's different about your child? Why do I have to give your child admission? UT had 90,000 applications this year. Tell me why I have to give your child application. A&M had a lot. I went to A&M 20 years ago, and it's a totally different A&M. And so they told us, we have so many applications, we have to turn out like 60,000. That was what A&M told me. So what makes them different? Academic is important, essay writing is important, all the things you said, but you have to get them to volunteer. So if your child wants to be a doctor, then go volunteer with the hospital. Because then you can tell the pre-med programs like, yeah, she wants to be a doctor and she's volunteering with St. David's, and that's how she got the St. David's scholarship for 8 years, by the way. So you want to make sure that if your child wants to do coding, UT has coding clubs during summer. You want to be a robotic engineer, send him for 1 week to UT or to A&M for the 1 week, because your child has to do something that shows them that the child is focused and he knows what he's doing. Because many kids, I'm telling you, it's not like our time when we grew up, right? We're all self-driven. Now you have to help them and push them, like, go say hello to that guy. Shake his hands and tell him you're interested in an internship. And it's so crucial. They need to have executive functioning skills at this age.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like we could close after her, like she is done. Thank you so much. Like, you did excellent.
Last thing,
excellent.
pray.
One more.
Pray and pray.
Can I do this? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, because you guys have given very good feedback, and I appreciate you guys for being here this evening. Can we give them a round of applause? Like, they were phenomenal. I've got 2 pieces that I want to just share, and then if you guys want to mingle and co-mingle, but I want to make sure that we get all of the information out for those who do need to leave. And I know I gave a hard, fast stop at 7 p.m. and you guys have absorbed a lot of information tonight. A couple of things that I want you guys to keep in mind. Someone else hit on it, and I believe it was Isabella. In our office, we recommend strongly that you apply to 7 schools. Do your 2 reach schools, do your 3 target schools that are kind of right there in your zone, and then your 2 safety schools. And safety, by safety, I mean this is going to be a safety school for you academically as well as financially. The reason that we do that, Isabella hit on it a little bit, is that even if this is the school like you positively know that you want to go to, if you have got another offer in your pocket that you got from a school, even if that's your safety school, you can now negotiate. You've got something to be able to go back to them and ask if they reconsider your offer with. If you have got one offer, that's the only offer, and you just say, I would like to get additional funding, there's not a whole lot of reason to do that. They want our students, but you've got to give them something to work with. So if you can go to that admissions office, go back to them and say, listen, I am so interested, and I will use the Smiths as an example. I am so interested in your institution, but I have got, $70,000 a year that is coming from Pepperdine. We want to attend, but we've got to do what makes fiscal sense for our family. That gives you something to be able to have the conversation and for that admissions officer to be able to do some additional research for you. So I strongly urge you to apply to at least 7 schools. Another piece that I wanted to talk about, and I think it was Bolu that started to hit on, private institutions versus public institutions. Many get sticker shock, like when you go in and you see some of the price tags on private institutions. Please do not get sticker shock, because let me just say this, when you're looking at your public schools, they may have a much lower tuition room and boards where you might be sitting in the 20s. However, their merit grid is pretty firm. Like it is kind of a grid, you know what you're going to get, and you might be able to apply for some supplemental pieces, and by all means, I'm strongly suggesting that you do that. But private schools have a totally different way of looking at things. And so just like Bolu said, they have got much larger endowments. They have got a lot of private scholarships and additional ways to be able to tap funds. So you might be looking at, I'll use again you guys as the example, Pepperdine, you might be looking at $90,000 a year. However, they have got the funding to where they can whittle that down to $20,000 a year. So you could be looking at a $90,000 school that ends up being far less expensive out of pocket for you than a public school. And the other piece of that is some schools say, I'm going to meet your need. And so many of them now, like if there's an income that is under 200,000, some of them they are taking care of tuition. If you have got a need and they're saying, hey, we will do 50% of need-based. And so your FAFSA comes back and says, okay, this family is able to pay $30,000 out of pocket, but we meet 50% of that. So already you've been sliced in half. So I strongly encourage you, if it is on your list, do not just take it off because you look at the price and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm buying a small house each year. Give it a thought. Pricing is much different than when I went to school. I went to UT. I think I was looking at maybe like $7,000 a year, like that, and it is nothing at all in comparison. But the school that my daughter is attending, it was a school that she applied to because we're going to counter offer her first choice. And her offer was so good, it was like, I think we need to go see this school. So it is absolutely worth making sure that you spread it around and take a look. And this is a negotiation. This is, you're making a huge financial investment. And so by all means, give that some consideration. And then the last thing, two last things. One, your institutional merit. We talked about this just a little bit. That is your giant bucket. So whatever school that you're applying to, that is oftentimes going to be the biggest bucket for your aid. So if you're, and she said it, Texas A&M does not give money. I've seen it.
I got $250 a semester.
Yeah, I think you had a what score? Your 4.0 and was your SAT?
1400.
Yes, so that to many schools could get you almost a full ride, and for A&M it's like $250. It's like, come on, man, like that was like your time and like sending it out to me. Yes, half a book. So again, I want you guys to really just be mindful of the places that you are applying. And never stop applying when you get on campus. So say for instance you guys work everything through and you're going in first year and you're like, we've got a gap. And you know that you've got a gap. Your goal, you've made your investment here at Brentwood, some of you for many, many years. And the objective at my home was to recoup it. And so I say the same thing to you guys. Never, ever, ever stop applying. When you get on campus, join organizations that have funding tied to them. So if you've got leadership organizations, if you've got recruitment organizations, $5,000 here, $2,500 there, that starts to add up very quickly. If you're finding that you have got, a good size gap, go in that first year knowing that when you get on that campus, you are going to be focused and you are going to be driven to get those costs down. So it might be you doing some volunteer work in the alumni office, no one gives money like the alumni give money. Like Juliet has done tours and they will just come back and it's like, oh, so-and-so sent you a $50 gift card. So go and make yourself known in the alumni office. Be willing to do tours, work on student recruitment so that you can become known in that administration, and by all means you want to be known in that alumni group. When you're looking for outside scholarships, look for alumni scholarships, especially like from your local area. You guys have been absolutely awesome. You have been absolutely patient, and you guys are probably on information overload. So last thing, and I promise this is the last thing that I'm going to say to you. How many of you all, this is your last student who's last or only student that's about to go to school? Okay, there is a book that I recommend to you guys, and it is called Release My Grip. It is very real that this school year is different for you. You have had a person in your house that you have loved on and it felt like you have forever, and now the year has come. And I remember summer leading into senior year, I was walking through Hobby Lobby getting stuff and just tears just started to come. And I'm not a huge emoter. And I thought, oh man, someone sees me, they're gonna think I am losing my mind. God gave them to us so we could prepare them for flight. This is a great book. It is a great book to wrap your mind and your heart around the fact that God gave them, and it's not that they're just gone forever, so don't think of it that way. It's an evolving, it's changing, but you are preparing them to launch, and it is a great book, and so I strongly encourage any of you guys who know this is it to read that book. I will close this out with the, oh no, Brother Washington is here. Brother Washington, would you close this out with a word of prayer? Awesome, I appreciate you, thank you.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your love, for the blessings that you have given each one of us. We're grateful to you, Father, for our children, for the instructors and administrators that you've placed in their lives here at Brentwood, as well as family members and others outside of Brentwood who have helped to mold and shape them into who they are. Father, we are grateful that many of them are preparing to move on as they graduate this year, and then for those who are going to their senior year, Father, they too will soon be flying the coop and moving on to the next chapter of their lives. We ask, Father, that you guide us in the right direction as far as helping them not only be prepared for that next chapter, but that you place the blessings in our lives to enable us to get them through to meet the financial need and to help them prepare themselves, Father, for a meaningful place in society. We thank you so much for Ms. Booker and for her staff and for the fine job that they're doing in helping us as parents to help our children. And Father, we ask that you continue to bless us and keep us safe as we now dismiss from this meeting. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys so much.